She doesn't need too much of an introduction, but she is a 19-year-old rising motorsport driver from the Philippines, currently climbing the ladder of her Formula One dream, having completed in both local international karting championships since the age of 5. Racing is something she's dedicated her life to. I'm going to let her do all the talking, not me. It was interesting in that last session. The NFL said they have Taylor Swift. NBA mentioned K-pop. In my humble opinion, the next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is what the F1 has as the future. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bianca Bustamante.
Good afternoon, everyone.
What's also wonderful about this session is I have definitely played the This Is My Event. So a lot of my friends have brought their teenage kids along today. It's brilliant to see such a mixed room. Bianca, welcome back to Sports Matters. Thank you so much for joining us. You were 17 the last time we saw you.
I was a baby.
And at the end of it, I did say, I have a 19-year-old daughter. At the end, I handed my phone to her and said, "Can you call my daughter, please?" Bianca, for people in the new to the industry, new to the sport, for you, where did it start? 5 years old, where did it start? How did you get involved in motorsport? And what challenges have you faced as a young woman breaking into the field?
So hi, everyone. To those that might not know who I am, I'm Bianca Bustamante. I'm a Filipino racing driver that currently competes in F1 Academy for McLaren Racing and part of the development program. My humble beginning started way back home in the Philippines, a country that's not really known for motorsport. To be honest, we don't even have tracks or proper equipment to even start your motorsport career or dream. So at a young age of 3, my dad is actually, he is my pillar in this whole journey. He introduced me to the sport. He was I don't want to say avid, I'd rather say frustrated racing driver. He's always wanted to be a racing driver his whole life. Unfortunately, didn't have the money and to pursue it. So he introduced me to sport, brought me to a track, 3 years old, put me in a go-kart, and immediately I fell in love. I'd always say that I found my first love at the age of 3. That feeling of just driving fast, the adrenaline, it's just something you don't get. It's like, there's this funny fact that you just gotta live life afraid, and that's what I've been doing. So yeah, that journey started at 3. At the age of 9, I won various international races, and at the age of 14, 15, the pandemic happened. So actually it put my whole career into a halt. I wasn't competing, I wasn't racing. So all my dreams and sacrifices for my parents, coming from a very middle-class family, all down the drain. So obviously you guys can maybe realize how frustrated I was of my life and what my life has become. But all good things, I had a silver lining after the pandemic. I met my manager, Darlo Young, and we built everything from scratch. At one point, I couldn't even pay for my braces or for my school or for my travel. My parents had no job because of COVID. But out of all that, I was able to pursue my dreams and be where I am now, through the highs and lows.
It's absolutely amazing story. By the way, if a little bit of dust flows into the room, into everyone's eyes, it's totally normal. We had a brilliant session. I know you didn't see it. There's a brilliant session this morning about women's sport as a marketing opportunity and how huge women's sport is perfectly becoming. But what challenges did you face as a woman trying to break into what is a very male-dominated sport?
It's a long list. Where do I begin? Challenges itself. Honestly, I feel like as an athlete, we face challenges every day. There's not a single day where it ever comes easy. And I think that's what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to bleed for what you love. I bleed for my sport. At a very young age, obviously I had to be put in a very athlete mindset. So the pressure, I was introduced to this whole world of, constant criticism, never being enough, never feeling enough, while also facing defeats and various challenges in life. And all of a sudden, you kind of also have to navigate through life as a person, as an adult. And that's something I'm doing now. So, to balance both personal and your career is a challenge itself. And then on race day, racing is one of the sport in the world where you can be perfect. You can drive the perfect lap. And if one variable in that car goes wrong, everything's down the drain and you lose a race. You know, nothing is ever completely in your hands. Similar to how you live life. I think that's why I loved racing. It's just the fact that, you know, sometimes you can be everything you ever wanted and still not have everything you ever need. So I think, yeah, that's definitely one of the challenges I faced. For a long time, I was sometimes, you know, insecure. And I would always, you know, relay my self-worth to my success. And often I would never feel enough when I wasn't winning. And I think that, you know, that mentality, it's sad, but at the same time, it's what we all face. You know, and within the sport, there was a huge struggle for females to break into Formula One. For the longest time, we didn't have a female Formula One driver. And yeah, not even in F4, F3, you don't see a lot of female drivers, unfortunately. You know, in many countries, females weren't even allowed to drive. And yeah, that's actually in F1 Academy where we had their first race, Jeddah. Females weren't alive until 2018. And I think that is, you know, it's saddening. But at the same time, that's why I do what I do, to hopefully advocate and share my passion with everyone.
And what changes have you seen over the last few years? I mean, you mentioned Jeddah and stuff that really does support female drivers, and what more can be done, do you think?
I think, you know, like was mentioned earlier, Drive to Survive has done an amazing job with bridging, you know, lifestyle, media to Formula One, and to bring everyone across to Formula One, especially my generation. That's what I've always done, really. I was introduced to motorsport at a young age. I feel very thankful that my dad was a passionate racing driver. But I know a lot of kids out there, you know, doesn't have that like family support that can introduce them to that world. And I hope that I get to be that bridge for other young girls and boys. You know, to see a young girl and boy pursue their passion, you know, they can be the next Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri. You know, I always say that the next generation is the next parents and leaders. That's why it's so important to, you know, be a role model in everything that you do. And I think, you know, what's happening now in F1 Academy, you know, for all you guys, F1 Academy is actually an initiative and a series that was made by Formula One itself. It was to help women have a platform where they can pursue their dreams and not have to worry about the financial difficulties of making it, but at the same time have the opportunities to grow into the sport, to be connected to all Formula One teams, find sponsors to make it to the next level. Because as you all know, racing is very expensive. It's one of the sport in the world where before you even get in the car and drive, you already spent thousands and thousands on equipment, on car, traveling, hotel. You know, we're racing all over the world, so you can imagine how expensive that must be. So that itself is a struggle. And, you know, F1 Academy, the initiative built now, introduced us to all F1 teams. And I'm now part of the driver development program for McLaren, wearing the papaya colors. And that has brought me so many opportunities to hopefully make it to the next level. You know, I want to be back in F3, F2, racing against the boys. And at the same time, I'm surrounded by female allies. I think that's actually one of the biggest changes that has ever happened in Formula One. You know, the F1 paddock itself brimming with female allies. I'm working with female engineers, female mechanics, female tire changers. And it's just so unusual to see. You know, girls ask me and they're like, I didn't know girls can be engineers, you know, I didn't, because it's so male dominated. You enter the classroom, it's all males. It's so, you're always constantly threatened by that male aura. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest changes I've seen recently.
That's fantastic. And I think just sticking on your career a little bit, what has been the most defining moment in this career? I mean, since you were 3, I said 5. I mean, I got 2 years out, but what's been the most defining moment for you?
That's tough. Honestly, every day defines who I am. I'm learning so much. Recently, I've been doing a bit of adulting. Signed with McLaren. So they called me, they were like, Pia, how committed are you? I was like, I'd live in a different country for McLaren. And they were like, okay, come live in London. So I had to leave home, pack my bags, figure out visa, electricity bills, landlords, how to get insurance, everything. And then, I was living on my own for the longest time. So that meant that I didn't really have any parental guidance. So I had to rely on myself quite a lot. And I feel like that's, that really defined who I am. I learned to be very mature for my age. I had to be, because if I wasn't, then I'd have no clean clothes. I won't be able to do laundry. I won't get to places. I'll miss my flight. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with all of it. But obviously, the greatest moment of my life will definitely be being with McLaren, with my family. I always say, in a team sport like football, like motorsport, you need a village to build a champion, and that's what McLaren's given me.
That's absolutely amazing. Talking about racing and your job, what does success look like for a racing driver?
Success is peace. A lot of athletes, when you interview them, you ask them, what did it feel like winning or crossing that finish line, first? And they always say, I just felt peace. I just felt inner relief. All of a sudden, that pressure, those doubts, those thoughts that you overthink in your head that might never happen, all of them go away, and all you can ever be is complete happiness. And I always wondered, why do you have to win to feel that peace? Why can't you have peace within? And that's actually something McLaren, has really pushed for me to learn. As a young kid, I'm so hard-headed. I'm like, no, I want to win. I want to push. And in a sport like racing, the more you push, the slower you are, because then you're overdriving the car, and you're not driving to the car's limit. You're not patient enough. So they told me that, success isn't valued in wins. It's valued in the journey and everything you learn. And for me, it was so hard to actually engrave that in my head, because I grew up in a very Asian household. Like, my parents were like, you need to be this, you need to win. I was a breadwinner of the family. My parents put all their money on me, all their bets, and if I fail, the whole family fails, basically. So I had to grow up with that mindset. I had to be number one, I'd be the best. And so coming into racing, where you can never win every race. It's impossible. Even 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton didn't win every single race of his career. And that's the reality of it, is actually embracing failure. I remember being 17, when I was speaking here at All That Matters, I was telling people I said that I implore failure, because I failed so many times. I can't even believe it. Like, the amount of times I spun, crashed, even until now, I still do it. I still make mistakes. And I think the greatest asset is learning to bounce back from that and learn from it, and then put it together the next lap. And that's something I had to learn recently, that, mistakes are there to happen.
So how do you bounce back?
Oh gosh, here comes the hard part. I'm still learning, honestly. There are moments where I am just so in a rabbit hole of just constant doubt. After a bad race, it's the week, literally that coming week, I'm in a slump. I'm a bad driver, everything, I'm not good enough, I'm slow. And it's so hard to put yourself out of that negative talk. And honestly, for me, I love sport. I love moving. When I move, my brain doesn't talk. And I think that's important for me sometimes. So I'm very energetic. I do a lot of sports. Doing one thing is a rest from another. So I embrace myself by, having creative outlets. I feel like it's so important. For the longest time, I always dedicated myself to racing. I was like, this is my whole world. I'm not allowed to love anything else. I'm not allowed to give my time to anything else, because all of me is for racing. But actually, that was the exact opposite, because then all of me meant that I was no one without racing. I was nothing without racing. And that mentality actually drained me so much that, no, I'm Bia and I'm a racing driver. It's not that, this is not all of me. I can be someone else, and I can still love two things at the same time. So now I embrace myself in photography, art. I love architecture. I taught myself how to draw floor plans when I was a kid, and it's something I still enjoy doing now. I love photography. I love anime. So music, I love music. I listen to it all the time. It actually, helps me relieve pressure. So yeah, a lot of things actually is a part of me. I always tell myself that I find pieces of myself in everything that I do, in every people that I meet.
You mentioned your father getting you into the kart for the first time, but has there been anyone that's kind of an inspiration or a mentor the whole way through your life?
Gosh, I'm so grateful, honestly. I've met so many people in my life that I never thought I'd ever get to meet. like as a young kid, I was watching like obviously Formula One. I was watching Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, like they were winning Grand Prix, and I never thought that this kid back home in the Philippines in a small town in Laguna would ever get to be in that paddock, in that race, alongside all these amazing people one day. And I find inspiration from that, just being accepted, you know, being surrounded by them. And obviously I've had a lot of great mentors alongside me throughout this journey. You know, like I said, my manager, Darryl Young, he has been honestly one of my strongest pillar in this journey. He helps me. He's actually, when I was 16 and I couldn't afford to get my braces out, he gave me money and paid for my braces. He paid for my medical, paid for my school so I could graduate. So, you know, those tough moments, I always say, how come people support athletes when they're winning and not when they're at the bottom? And yeah, that's what Darryl did. He saw an amazing future and that I couldn't see. So I think with his guidance, we've made it so far, and yet we still have so much to do ahead of us. But yeah, he's definitely one of my role models.
What a team. And Darryl is at the back there, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be around this afternoon.
He even helps me with my hair color.
Talking about kind of the Bianca, the brand, I know you have a lot of feelings about things like social media, and you mentioned Drive to Survive and stuff, but what role do you see as a teenager specifically? And yes, I'm asking this not just on the business angle, but also as a parent. What role do you see social media and digital platforms playing in building that fan base? How do you engage with your fans?
It's incredible. Your phone is like one of like the best assets you can have. With that phone, you can connect, create, and capture. And honestly, it's like one of the best tools you can ever have. You know, for me, when I was back home in the Philippines, I was so disconnected from my dreams. I was like, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be in Formula One. But, you know, through my phone, I kept myself connected. I, you know, reached out to people. I remember, you know, messaging Darryl. I knew that he's a racing driver himself, actually, and he has a race team. And I remember when I was 11 years old and I won a race in China, he was like, hey, Bia, let's keep in contact. If ever in the future you need some guidance, I'm open to give you some, you know, to lend you some help. You know, and I remember I thought of that, and, you know, we reached out, and, you know, through a single message, it led to all of this. And I remember at that time, I couldn't even speak proper English because it wasn't my first language. I didn't really know how to talk in front of people. I was very shy. I'm really an introvert, to be honest. And you know, I learned so much from my sport, and we built our brand. What you see now on social media, what it is literally just me and Darryl at the beginning. We were creating content. I was capturing everything. I captured, edited, I posted, I wrote, I did everything. And from, you know, that small post, I probably got 50 likes. It's now gone up to 300,000 or something. And it's crazy. And, you know, it's never about quality, but it's actually meaning, like a post, the meaning of it, storytelling. And that's why, for me, I love social media, because I get to use it as a platform where I can share my journey. And I feel like that's so rare sometimes. You know, we always see people when we're at the top. You know, why not see people when they're at the bottom? And that's what I did. You know, I wanted to show people the hardships. You know, I highlighted the lows to make the highs even more memorable. Whenever I had a bad day, I'd tell people I made a mistake, I'm slow, there's no pace, I'm disappointed in myself, I'm sorry. And I think that's something rare to see, to admit to making mistakes. And for me, I've always done it. I've always owed up to every mistake because they're important. And, you know, social media, there's always that pressure as well. You know, to belong and to be trendy and to, you know, always be in the trend and not miss anything out. And yeah, when I was a teenager, I still am, but when I was younger, I always put myself in that pressure, and I always feel like I have to constantly change myself to make myself acceptable to everyone else, so everyone would like me. But I realized not everyone can like you, and that's okay. But a lot of people can love you, and that's what matters the most, and that's what you have to look at. And yeah, so we've done an amazing job with social media. We've connected with so many people, and not just that, but I see every day so many little kids like tagging me, you know, their parents tagging me in stories, you know, asking their kids, "Who are you today?" And they're like, "I'm Bianca. I'm a racing driver." And it's so heart melting, you know, like as much as I inspire them, I actually draw inspiration from them. You know, in those bad days when they're having a bad day, reading a comment from someone saying that, you know, God put that dream in you for a reason, so keep fighting. You know, reading just that line, I remember so well because I still say it to myself. It literally just pulls me out of that deep, dark hole of overthinking and brings me right back out. So it's, you know, it's a give and take. They give me so much and I take so much. So it's like that, you know, that relationship, you know, value relationship.
The social media, I mean, it has its benefits, but there's also the hate, right? And if you don't mind me asking the question, how everyone gets smart ass comments and stuff like that. What advice would you give people on how to deal with the hate?
Love always overpowers hate. That's one thing I realized. Like I could, you know, sometimes I don't cry. You know, sometimes even I hate myself. Sometimes I look at a photo, I'm like, I'm so ugly. I'm like, that's such a bad laugh. Like even I, you know, talk sometimes, and I give myself hate. I take, you know, I make fun of myself, and that's human. Like you can't ask someone to be perfect if you're not perfect. So it's, I think, accepting it and knowing that you're on different paths. You know, like they might not see your struggle, but you know what you're going through. And I think that's what's important, being true to yourself. And also never, you know, like never getting lost in the whole social media world is very important. Use it as a tool, but not make it your whole life. That's what I've always told myself. You know, I'm always quite private, even though I share a lot of like contents and everything. But who I am, Bia, the real Bia, you know, only my true friends and family will ever know. And I think that's a good separation of, you know, brand is who you are, but Bia is who your people, your family gets to see, and that's what's important.
And how do you unwind? I know you mentioned that you've moved into a house and you're kind of but how do you unwind? How do you just let it all go?
Oh, right.
Can you unwind?
Right now, I'm very busy. I realize that you have to pay bills monthly, or else you won't have electricity. Found that the hard way. But I've been adulting. I've had to grow up a little bit and realize that outside the track, you do have responsibilities, and that you gotta do them. But on the blind side, I do love photography. Like I said, I love creating. I also love cleaning. I found out that I love cleaning. I didn't realize that until I had to. So that actually just keeps me going. You know, I love organization. So I think a lot of different things I'm finding about myself that is not completely related to racing at all. Like, it doesn't mean that, I'm a racing driver, I love racing, that I have to love cars, I have to love building cars. No, it's like finding different things about yourself that you love. And that's the only way you'll ever find peace. So I'm at peace when I'm, cleaning, drawing, listening to music.
Said no teenager ever. Parents of teenagers, how many of you have heard your kids say, "I love cleaning"? This is why I hand her my phone to phone Sunny and say, "Love cleaning." Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, it has been such a wonderful, wonderful journey, but where do you see yourself in 5 years, other than just being 24?
It's my last teenage year, so I'm actually a bit sad. Next year I'll be 20. I'm scared, honestly. It scares me what adulthood will look like. It's scary now, but it's not supposed to get easier, is it?
This.
But hopefully, on track. I want to be racing and pursuing my passion, my dream, living out my absolute best life. And wherever I'll be, I know I've done my best, because I always do every day, working on and off, building my community, my brand, performing on track, and I love it. I hope to, make it to Formula One. I think every racing driver, if you ask them where they'd be, they'd say, "Oh, I want to be in Formula One." And I do. It's my Everest. It's my everything. I'm literally doing everything I can. I'm here, I'm doing media. I'm doing all these brand deals day in, day out, so I can afford to race. It's literally so I can afford to be on track. And so hopefully I'll be racing.
So it's not drive to survive, it's survive to drive, right?
Barely surviving to drive.
what advice would you give? I don't know if this is a fair question to young women. I think to just young people, but young women to follow in your footsteps and pursue a career in motorsport. But I think we should bring boys into that question as well. Yeah.
I think I already said it earlier, but live life afraid. Do something that scares you. Why live in a comfort zone? You only got, a couple decades, do it something that makes you feel alive. I feel like that's so important. And have perspective, have a vision, have a future, and invest in yourself. I feel like that's the greatest investment I ever done. Learning how to read properly, speak English properly, present myself, do my makeup. I love makeup. So, learning all those different skills, it makes me feel alive. I love being a learner. So yeah, I mean, if there's an advice I could give is invest in yourself, and because it's the only, when everything goes away and everyone leaves and everything you own is gone, your best investment is what you have within. And if there's something I could say to the young girls and boys, it's definitely, at this age, you might have that pressure of trying to blend in. And, for the longest time, people would always tell me, Bia, do something safe so then you'll never fail. Every time someone told me I can't, I did everything I could so I can. And yeah, to the young girls and boys, I want to say that it's not about how well you blend in, but how boldly you stand out. There's only one you. There's literally only one you. And you got to make it as special as possible. And, I'm just what I'm doing, and I hope in any way possible that I get to inspire everyone or young girls and boys, to be them. And I wouldn't be anyone else. So I hope they wouldn't.
I just thought about this question. It's great hearing you talking to people your age. What advice would you give parents? No, seriously. What advice would you give parents whose teenager wants to be a professional racing driver? What advice could you give?
Listen to your kids. No, I mean, my family, I'm glad that I didn't have to convince my parents to bring me to the track, to bring me to the gym at the age of 7. I didn't have to convince them. They just did it because they loved racing and, they supported me. They saw my dedication. And I think, kids sometimes are so passionate about something, but they always fear the parents that, they might not like it, they might not approve it, they might not think that it's a suitable career path because there's not enough income or anything, or being an artist or being anything. It's like often you're always trying to find for your parents' approval and always having to please them. And, for me, I always felt like I had to win so I could please my parents and pay off, all those sacrifices they've done. But in reality, it's a journey. My parents love seeing me grow up. They love seeing me learn. They love seeing me fail. And I feel like, I hope that you guys, support your kids in whatever they aspire, even if sometimes it's not the safest choice, it's not the safest career path. If it's something that they love doing, I mean, love is everything. So I think it's very important.
And your father clearly never said to you, can you tidy your room? Because that seems to be the...
He definitely did.
And finally, we've got the Singapore Grand Prix this weekend. What do we expect? What are you up to this weekend? You got much on?
Yes, quite a lot, actually. We've got quite a lot of big things coming up. I'll be revealing my Singapore special helmet for this weekend, and obviously we'll be on track. So I think that's the coolest part, actually. When everything is silent and then you get in the car and all you can hear is the engine roaring. So I'm very excited for that. We're on track Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got the main race on Sunday. It's been cool. I honestly, Singapore has been such a symbolic part of my career. I was here in W Series in 2022, and actually, that's when they told me that the W Series, the series I was racing in, which is an all-female championship, they said that we've run out of funds. The investors pulled out, and we're bankrupt, so we're stopping the series. And I thought, for me, oh my gosh, another door closed on my face, and I thought it was over again. I was like, just can't catch a break. And we weren't able to finish the whole season. We stopped in Singapore and we missed 2 other rounds. And, the end of that year, I really thought it was all over. And then I met one of my sponsors actually that has really helped me in my career for everything. In their Filipino family, Lawrence Escalante, and they're based in Australia, and they said that, Bia, we saw your car. I mean, they reached out to me on Instagram actually. They were like, we saw your race in Singapore, and we want to support you. We want to give you money because we want to, it's the only way we can help. And I was like, oh, it seems like a scam. And then I didn't even read the message. I actually didn't. I missed out on a billionaire. They were like saying, Bia, we want to help you in your racing career because we want to see a Filipino in Formula One. I missed out. And then thankfully they they literally searched for my email and they found Daryl's email. And Daryl responded, obviously. And yeah, it turns out that, he's been supporting me ever since. He's the main reason why I was able to race again and to live and to be able to just compete. And then last year, Singapore again, I was called in and McLaren told me, met Zach Brown for the first time and said that we want to sign you for F1 Academy and be part of the development program. So everything symbolic happened here in Singapore.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I hate to say this, ladies and gentlemen, but we're out of time. Hopefully you can see why I was so excited about this interview. Bianca, everything you say is an inspirational quote. Literally everything that comes out, even talking about cleaning houses and stuff. But it's just so wonderful to talk to someone who's so, you're not 19, you're so humble, so human, so inspiring. I've written so many notes. This is going to go for another 10 minutes. But you talked about it being an analogy for life. You talked about every day defines who I am. You talked about success is peace. You talked about that you're employing failure. You said a lot of people can love you. You said love overpowers hate. You said F1 is your Everest. So I hope one day we have F1 driver Bianca Bustamante on stage with us. You said do something that scares you. Now we have to be a little bit careful of that, but do something that scares you. Invest in yourself. Parents, listen to your kids.
And also kids, listen to your parents.
Right? We talked about Survive to Drive, but I think, ladies and gentlemen, there's a Netflix show out there, a Netflix in the room, which is called, and I'm quoting you, I am Bianca and I am a racing driver. Ladies and gentlemen, with dust in my eyes, Bianca Bustamante, good luck this weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone.